Hello and welcome to the first tutorial on non-trivial programming. In this tutorial we're going to be using the Go programming language, and we're going to be working specifically in the context of testing. And obviously, because these tutorials are a bit more than beginner level, it's expected that you know where testing files are supposed to be, how the testing system works in general. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use a scripting language to generate Go code, to compile Go code, for a test that has a lot of different very similar test cases that we couldn't really automate inside of the Go language itself because it's not quite as flexible as, say, for instance, Ruby or PHP. So we're going to start by creating a function here inside of our testing file. It doesn't matter which, because this isn't so much a follow along as it is explaining a principle. We're going to call it test lists. And that's our basic testing function setup. Now what we're going to do is call a function here, new, and what we need to do is, in this context, although it's not relevant for your purposes, we need to call the function, and then it is going to do some stuff in the background for us, and we need to verify that the result of this function happened. And in this particular case, we're going to say that that actually happened. And it won't equal true unless it's happened. There's going to be a few other rules, or if it does not equal. If include doesn't equal true, then we know it failed, or if there's some sort of problem we need to figure out. So that's where we're going to say the error. And then we're going to make it so that it will print us out the o.activeList. And then return. Now, that's all good for that part, but then here comes the slightly more complicated and repetitive thing. This is another function inside. It doesn't really matter for your purposes what this function does. Just know that it does something and it's already been tested. And we have to pass the struct, and we have no function map. And now for this part of it, we have to do something a little bit fancy. Okay, because what that function call does is it only gives us back a template partial, and we need to make it a whole XML template. So we're going to, I'm going to copy and paste this part because it is a little bit long. It's a bit like this. And comma txt. So that gives us that. Now, once we've created this XML in this particular test, what we have to do is create a new object. Okay. And then now we have the final test, 2.activeList.include not equal Then, of course, we have failed, so we need to say so we don't really need anything beyond that. Now, this has to be done a bunch of different times with a bunch of different add calls, right? So each one of these adds a different type of call to the system, and we have to test that each one of them works. Otherwise, we can't just test one and assume that all of them will work. There could be errors all over the place. In fact, interestingly enough, when I actually wrote this test, I found like 5 errors in each individual function, because when you copy and paste stuff around, what ends up happening is it's not quite right and you forget one thing here, and so you just keep coming back and trying to fix the problem. We don't want to really do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a script to give us repetitions of this particular code. And it would just basically be as if we copy and pasted it like 4 or 5 times, but each time it will be different. So now the way that we're going to do that is like this. I'm going to create a new file. And we're going to save it, replace, that's okay. Now here we've got this new, we're going to use PHP. Now, people who don't use PHP and don't like PHP might say, why didn't you use Python? Why didn't you use Ruby? PHP is a templating language, and it's really good for templating. However, things like Ruby with ERB, I tried it, and really it is ugly and complicated. And one of the big issues that I have with producing code is that I like it to be well formatted. And ERB templates have problems with, you have to do little tricks to get it not to have a new line here, to have the right spacing here. It's very, very futzy. And then when you go in and you look at the code, it's like a nightmare. So PHP has a tendency to be better for this specific thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. And this is an example of why it's better. And we're going to do this, right? So this needs to go here, like that. Okay, and then we probably want to do like this. Okay, so there we go. Okay. Now, what we need to do, of course, is to get rid of our things here. Our double quotes. There's other ways to do this, but really, you don't like it. I don't like them. They're not the best. Now you notice how we have to put 3 here because we need both a backslash and we need to escape the quote. There we go. This is good. This is good. Now what we're going to do here is replace all instances of active list with just that. We don't really care what it's called. All right. So then what we're going to do here is we're going to get ourselves a copy of the list of things we need to do. 1 second. And to make things a bit better, we're just going to copy and paste them here. Because that'll go quicker. All right. So we want to get rid of active list because we've already got that one. And that means we want to do something that we kind of forgot to do, which is that on the second time around, none of these things are new initializations. They're just resetting. So we can get rid of those colon equals, actually. Okay, everything looking pretty good there. And then we just want to say for each cache ins as cache in do. Okay, echo string underscore replace field with cache in cache tmpl, and this Okay, so and then there we go. So now it has us a whole bunch of different code like that. We copy it, and then here we go, and we put our code there. We save it, go back. Error declared but not used. Oh my god, I did it. It was terrible. I am seriously a horrible person. Look what I did. Alright, so here we are not using error. That's very bad. That's very, very bad. So let's fix that problem where that's nice. There we go. We then replace this stuff, save it, and we pass. So that is one way that we use, and you see how like long and involved this is, and it doesn't really lend itself to a loop or to any kind of metaprogramming, which is already really something you don't want to do in Go. Go is all about like, yeah, the code's longer, but the direct method is always the better one, the easier one to understand. So, you know, when something in here fails, you just go to that line and you can figure out what's going on. You can understand things. There's nothing really clever. It's not some clever loop. It's like, what are all the variables mean in this context? So it creates a longer file, but it's much better this way. And as you can see, it's just a lot of just the different types of things. And if any of those things get added in, I can then go back to that generator and I can just generate another sort of test cases for it and it'll work. This actually needs to be filled out a little bit more to give it more coverage of all the different features, but for our intents and purposes, it worked really well.